Today, more than ever, we need to be braver in the way that we shape our careers. It's not enough just to go the coasting way. Do the best possible job you can and leave the best impression, because when you're young, it's all about trust. Your need to make a great first impression now is 100 times more important than it was. There's a deep urgency right now to level up your ability and your skill set. The vanity side of the traditional world of university puts people back. University can't do the old way anymore. It doesn't quite work.
Welcome to Extraordinary Unleashed, where we serve up the secrets of inspiring entrepreneurs and hustlers who have defied their limits to unleash their greatness. I'm your host, Deborah Chosen. Your next spark of inspiration starts now. Jordan Schwarzenberger is the CEO and founder of Arcade, the management and ventures company behind Europe's biggest YouTube content creators, The Sidemen. Previously, he was a creative at Vice and Lad Bible before joining YMU as their chief creative officer at just 20 years old. Not one to shy away from sharing his journey, he's also a global keynote speaker and member of Downing Street's SME Council. So Jordan, of course, many watching will be familiar with The Sidemen, but your journey doesn't begin there. I know that you actually began as an intern and over the years you worked your way up to CEO. So I'm really curious, how do you feel that your time within working for others has helped you to become the businessman that you are today?
So my career, when I started at Vice, of all places, back in 2016, 15, that kind of time, it was this amazing culture of just learning, the best people in the industry, like unbelievable talents. I was just able to soak it all up and get as much practical guidance, really.
Wow. And tell me a little bit about what that experience was like in terms of choosing to kind of move away from university and place yourself in the space of Vice. Like, were there any skills that you were able to soak up from that time?
Tons. I mean, I think for me, it was being around the actual work was always the draw, like being around the real stuff, right? Rather than just the textbooks and the theory that it wasn't practical enough, it wasn't up to date enough. And so it didn't really give me that foundation that I could then use in the workplace. Because when you're young, especially when you're at school, you just have no idea about the real world outside. And I definitely didn't. But I didn't even know that there was a commercial creative world. That sounds crazy, but when you're young and you're 17, you're at school, how would you know that, right? Going into an environment where you got to soak up the industry, understand how the mechanics of the actual business work is the best thing in the world, because then you're thrown into that practical experience, which you can then take on. I'm a massive advocate for getting as close to the actual business and work as you possibly can.
You mentioned how like in university, that didn't necessarily give you the experience that like being in the working world gave you. So if you could go back, or you could do university again, what would you do differently, and what do you think would really change this for you, especially in entrepreneurship? One
thing that's become clear over the years, that there's a much deeper realization that university can't do the old way anymore. It doesn't quite work. For any fields where there is, more hands-on, more practical experience you can gain, new courses need to exist. And obviously BPP do an amazing job at that and are able to provide more practical hands-on courses. If there were options like that, I would have 100% gone for that, then gone down the traditional route.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the beauty of today. Like you said, like where we're at, and we understand that, we need that practical experience, and courses now exist through, of course, BPP, that you can get that.
Certainly.
In terms of like who you were going to become, okay, so we're going back to university, we're thinking about maybe Jordan as the intern. Did you envision being the CEO of a business one day? Like, what did you model yourself against?
Well, at that time, definitely not. I think I was young, going with the day. And I think what I loved about that period of time in my life, again, being able to start in a more practical space, is as long as you keep building and taking the opportunities as they come. I always thought at the time, you need to land that first impression. It's such a powerful thing that every first impression with everyone you work with, every deck you hand in, every document you produce, like everything has to be the best. And you really have to focus on that daily job, just doing the best possible work that you can, because that first impression will build trust and confidence in you. And then over time, that will unlock more opportunities for you.
If we're speaking to someone who is maybe in the same position that you were once in, entering into your first big boy job, I guess you could say, Vice or Lad Bible, as the case might be, what would be your top tips for them to actually succeed in their career and make it extraordinary?
So I would say in 2 words, it's add value.
Yeah.
What value can be added in the business, and how do you add more of it? Focus on the day, delivering as best you possibly can with the job that you've been given, whatever it is, whether it's cleaning the toilets, whether it's making the decks, whether it's whatever.
Yeah.
Designing posters, I don't care. Do the best possible job you can and leave the best impression, because when you're young, it's all about trust. So attitude has to shine through more than any expertise, because you won't have the expertise. Yeah. Why would you?
I feel like there's something to be said about you putting yourself out there. And what I love about your story is how you kind of place yourself in the line of the opportunity. And so what would you say about the importance of putting yourself out there?
I think it's absolutely everything. I mean, it goes without saying, my whole career has been shaped by moving and output. I'm a big believer that the more you put out, the more comes back, whether that's through content, through connections, through, LinkedIn posts, whatever it might be. Not enough people are brave enough, in a way, for so many reasons, of course, that you will never regret, I think, putting yourself out there in terms of the reward that often comes. But I think today more than ever, we need to be braver in the way that we shape our careers. And I think you need to find alternative routes, which is again why something like BPP is so powerful, because it gives you an opportunity to take a zig versus go in the way that everyone else would, right?
Definitely, especially in today's AI day. I mean, I think we all know, right? Like the challenges that we're facing in terms of, can I work as fast as AI, and I don't want to be replaced. So I think
the answer is no. The answer is no, you're not going to outwork. Like, this is the reality, right? Therefore, you need to learn different skills, and skills that cannot be generated and cannot be run through an LLM, right? Which is why there's an urgency to go a different route and to learn different skills, to take different courses, to put yourself to a higher level. And that's leveraging places like BPP to do that, right? It's not enough just to go the coasting way. If you want to have any career at all right now, it's a bit of a maybe slightly negative way to start the day, but
we're being real.
We're being real.
Yeah.
And I believe this to my core, there's a deep urgency right now to level up your ability and your skill set.
I think it's important we have these conversations.
Totally.
Because I don't think we should be going out into the working world like ignorant, and not knowing what the current state of affairs is. So looking back, right, Arcade, if you had begun from the beginning, what's one area that you feel like academia could have maybe helped you to learn faster?
If I could go back and do, I don't want to say uni properly, because it's not uni so much, but do courses and more tailored training properly, I would have 100% loved to do it. I think there are some basics that when you're vibing it through a career,
like,
do you really know the fundamentals, or are you just floating and seeing where you go?
Yeah.
So
vibes can only take you so far.
It can only take you so far. And, a lot of people do courses and degrees that are a waste of time. But if you do courses that aren't a waste of time, that are actually tailored to what you want to do in a practical and tangible, as obviously BPP provides, you can actually, surprise, surprise, give yourself the tools and the skill to then power you in your career at a much higher level. But without training, how do you know how to be a manager? How do you know how to be a leader? How do you know how to structure a business? How are you going to know the basics and the fundamentals? Yes, you can slightly pick it up on the job. Having that formal training, I think, is absolutely essential for giving you the tools to really structure your work and your world. And you need to dive in, you need to do it. And I think if I could go back, for sure, I would have loved to have something like BPP there, genuinely, to give me those resources and those tools and those courses to actually give me what I needed practically for the work I'm in today.
Let's imagine for a second that I am trying to get a job at Arcade, okay?
Yeah.
So maybe I'm like Jordan, who's like age 19, and I'm sending around an email to 20 of your employees, and I want to be a part of the team. What would be some of the most sought after skills that you would want from someone that you're bringing onto the team?
It's a great question. I think the biggest skill set that we look for, especially with somebody young, is passion, attitude, determination, perseverance.
Make yourself almost impossible to ignore.
Totally. And how much can you back that up with tangible skills and training and learning, which again through BPP you can do. And if you can get the two things, right, attitude, determination, outputs, as well as actual training that's relevant to that work and that job versus a silly degree you've done so you can go and party in Leeds for 4 years, whatever it is. Attitude always comes first, and passion. Be a nerd. Ultimately, we look for nerds.
Be more nerdy.
Be more nerdy. Yeah, I think we all can do with that.
I think the journey of entrepreneurship, and I'm sure you probably can relate with this, sometimes can be quite a lonely one. There's a lot that you're figuring out as you go along. As we've said, if you've not been lucky enough to go and study, like at BPP, then you may not know so much, and then it can be quite an isolating space to be in. And so, how can people find their tribe in business? Do you have any top tips for actually connecting and networking?
Yeah, I think networking is so fundamental. When you're building a business, it is very lonely. I think having co-founders is the best thing. I would never probably start a business on my own.
Okay.
And I'd Yeah, it's about the journey. You know what I mean? It's about the friends you make along the way, not just getting there. I think business is about the process. Having people around you is invaluable. Yeah. And I think, again, if you're in an environment like a BPP, you're surrounded by other people who are like-minded, you'll probably find your tribe, and you'll be able to find people who could be those business partners for the future.
And we spoke about how volatile the world of business can be. We all know it's up and down. Like one day you're winning, the next day it's like, I don't know if there's enough money to even buy dinner tonight, right? So what has driven you beyond the ordinary?
I think that what's driven me beyond the ordinary is embracing all of that and not being scared of it, but really understanding that that is the fuel, that if you can leverage to your advantage, makes being an entrepreneur fun and scary, but the scary makes it fun. But then it's also understanding that traditional work is not really any different. The challenges the business is facing, you realize that fundamentally there is no real security.
Yeah.
So you have to lean into the volatility. It's why university isn't the problem. It's university that isn't relevant to work and to the practical career you want to have that is the problem. If you can ground yourself in the skills and the tools and the training that you can always fall back on, then at least you've got something there. Yeah. And that's far more important than a degree from X place and,
just having something.
Not naming any names.
Yeah.
But the vanity side of the traditional world of university puts people back because it doesn't give them anything to truly fall back on. Whereas, BPP courses that are relevant to the world of work today really do.
So we've spoken so much about your journey and we have touched, of course, on your experience at university. And I feel like I know the business of Jordan. So if we imagine for a second that you have a business school, right? What's the first thing that you would teach in the business school of Jordan to help someone watching maybe unleash their extraordinary?
I would teach, fundamentals of business, like what is trade and commerce and how do those things work? What is the sort of principal element of selling, right? How does that work? Why do people buy? What does value even mean? Time, and time being wages, and wages being money that you then need to recoup through revenue. And how do you find that revenue? Through customers, and who are the customers, and how do you market to them, and those fundamentals. And then I would go quickly into reaching an audience and cultivating an audience actually. And how do you learn those skills? Because that's the gap today that can get you so much further ahead. If you know how to leverage social, leverage content, there's an absolute gap for education around business plus content. That's a gap. There's business school. There's also social media courses, which typically don't really, again, to the point of not maybe being a bit out of date.
Yeah.
But often there's a gap between what's relevant today for the world of work versus what was relevant, right? And what maybe the prestige of certain universities might hold in people's minds versus in reality, and how practical that is. Because trust me, I've got friends of mine who've been to some of the best universities in the world. They are further behind than people who did apprenticeships or more relevant courses, or who studied, things that were relevant to the place they actually wanted to be in and the work they wanted to do. BPP courses that are relevant to the world of work today really do. So yeah, I think it's fundamental.
Yeah, 100%. And finally, if we were enrolling into the business school of Jordan, for those that are watching this, right, and they've heard your story, they've heard the journey, and they're thinking, okay, great, but what's one quick actionable thing that I can do to actually help me unleash my extraordinary? What is one assignment that you accept?
Okay, so I would say look at yourself in the third person as if you were a brand. I would say go and make a document, and on that document, map out your essential points, who you are, what your value proposition is, what you represent. And if you could click your fingers, I know I said not to look forward too far, but in 5 years time, where would you like to be? What is a bit of a strategy that you could provide for yourself? That will inform the types of people you can then network and speak to and reach out to. And now you've got your strategy, your sense of who you want to speak to. I would then find the people who are decision makers within those businesses that you would love to one day work for. And on that list as well, write the companies that you'd like to work with, that you admire, that you look up to, that you engage with. That's a great place to start.
And don't wait for people to come to you.
No.
It goes back to putting yourself out there, putting yourself in the line of opportunity. Thank you, Jordan. Thanks for sharing your journey.
Thank you so much.
Extraordinary Unleashed.